Well, guys, first of all, welcome to the first prep for the fall of 2015, and this is really the beginning of our management training team for 2016. You know what we're preparing for over the next 8 months is really to have the biggest, most exciting management training team in the entire Eastern region. You know, as a Georgia division, we've always been one of the producers of some of the top branches in the entire company. With evidence this year with Jordan White doing her thing, also having great success with Will Bice, Sam Knapp, Jen Hart. So we've had some pretty successful and exciting managers come out of the Georgia division. Also, our new district success has been strong too. We've had some of the top producers year in and year out at the new DM level this year, namely Cole Forrester, and we've had another couple of new district managers coming in from other divisions that are starting to get the ball rolling as well. But we're excited about over the next 8 months, like I said, is really recrafting and reshaping our new districts to be even more successful than ever before. We're looking to have our branch class be more successful than ever before. And we're going to tackle the key result areas of the business. Over the next 8 months, we're going to talk about recruiting, we're talking about training, and we're talking about working with representatives. So the first several months are really going to be focused on the recruiting side. So that's going to be things like, well, right away, we're going to start talking about the interview, right? The pre-interview is something that we're going to be working on right away as a new DM team, or as a new, I guess we'll call it first year team, right? So all people that are in management training for the first time will be working on the interview. Okay, we'll be working on the pre-interview first tonight. Then we're also talking about the group interview. Then we're going to talk about the post-interview. But then in addition to that, we're going to talk about working with receptionists. We're going to talk about active advertising, how to take and make phone calls, the PR program, which has been a big strength of our division for the last 5 years. In fact, as a team, either myself or some of the districts in our organization have spoken of the PR program at SLC every year now for the last several years. So we're going to talk about recruiting. We're one of the best in the nation at this. So after that, we're going to start talking about training. That's going to be the 3-day training seminar. For those of you that are already in next level, we're not going to wait on talking about training. We're actually going to start talking about it at our local preps. So we talked about that this week. In fact, one of the assignments for our next level team will be to watch Drew Frank's intro talk to training, so that we can report and talk about it and practice some of that next week. So we're going to start running right away with training for next level. For first year team, we'll get into training as we get closer towards the end of the campaign. And then during the whole process, we're going to talk about working with representatives. So each week we'll kind of weave in some skill set stuff. We'll weave in some situational leadership type models where how to talk about certain reps. We're going to do some scenario type management where it's talking about individual reps and how to handle certain situations that they deal with. We'll also talk about PDI in general. We'll talk about driving phone jams, talk about running effective team meetings, running key staff meetings, and how to develop a culture within your organization. So we've got a lot of stuff to talk about as a training program, as a training class. We're also going to be digging into the key result areas for us as a division. In fact, myself and the district management team, we're going to be focusing on productivity in a big way. We are going to be digging into Drew Frank's training and dissecting that and really implementing some of the key talks and key points that he makes during training. We're also going to be talking about a culture of accountability, which is how to drive the number of demos completed per representative, not only during their fast start, but also during their career. That's going to be a big focal point. We're also going to be talking about the Southwest Region Assistant Management Promotion Program. So we're going to be digging into that. And all throughout the process, we're going to be talking about personal growth. Starting after our September prep on the 7th, by the second September prep, we're going to launch a wellness part of the management training program or the leadership training program, which is where we're actually going to be coaching as a division with Chris Gamboa, who's Jeff Gamboa's younger brother. He's actually a nutritionist, certified nutritionist, who I've actually coached with before. During my coaching time with him, I lost 2 inches on my waist, gained 2 inches in my shoulders. So basically 2 inches in my chest, lost 2 inches in my waist. So it's a 4-inch swing, which is probably a conversion of somewhere in the neighborhood of about 15 to 20 pounds of converting fat into muscle. And so for those of you ladies, hopefully we're not going to be gaining you 20 pounds of muscle. But the whole idea is to improve your wellness from a health and nutrition standpoint. And part of leadership training is not only talking about how to be better at this business, but also how to be better leaders in general. And part of being a better leader is having good nutrition, having good health. Because if you have good health and have good energy, it allows you to be able to give more to your people. So, like I said, we're going to be focusing on that. We're also going to be focusing on finances. We're going to be helping you guys out with your own personal finances, digging into that. One of the things that I'm going to be asking all of you to do, especially if you're here in this office, if you're watching us online, I'll ask you to do the same. But if you're going to spend more than $100 on anything, I want you to run it by me first, okay? Or run it by your district manager if you're watching this at your local office. But anything at all, right? I don't care what it is, you need to run it by. And the reason why you need to do that, guys, is because we want to help make sure that you're making smart and sound financial decisions. More often than not, the answer is going to be sure, go ahead. But in some cases, maybe, hey, before you do that, you need to sell this much, right? That delayed gratification sometimes allows you to feel good about making that purchase, but also it keeps you in the right financial place to be able to afford the things that you want to buy and not to sacrifice any other things that are important to you. Because in some cases, you make a decision because you think you need it right then and there, but by doing that, it ends up sacrificing other options that may be available to you in the future, things that could be important to you. I'll just use a quick example. I had an individual who wanted to be part of our management training team. All they needed to have was $100 in startup in order to help them be in the right place. They needed to pull it out for something that they felt like they needed, which was important to them, but they needed to pull it out in order to be able to afford something else. And guys, you think about $100, that would have been so easy for that individual to have in advance if they had planned accordingly. And if they had run it by me, hey, I need $100 for this expense, whatever that expense may have been, we could have sat down and said, okay, you're at 30% right now. What that means is that you need to go out and sell an extra $350 this week. If you sell an extra $350 this week, you'll have that extra $100, no big deal. But because this person didn't prioritize, because this person didn't think about it, they ended up pulling it out and ended up hurting their ability to get recognized as a management candidate. So guys, it's one of those little things that can make a big difference, is just planning ahead. So we're going to talk about personal finances a lot over the next 8 months. So I'm excited for what we're going to embark on. I'm excited for the journey that we're going to take together. But what I want to start digging into now is what are the standards that we're going to be looking for our management training team. And here are the standards. They're pretty simple. Number one is, of course, attendance to these events. These meetings are once a week. We're going to have everybody together. It's really important that you're at these. It's important that you're attentive. It's important that you're at it taking notes. Okay? Not just sitting there screwing around, not just sitting there, playing, if you're watching online, playing video games, watching TV in the background, that's not going to be effective. If you're here, you need to be on point. You need to be taking notes, not eating food, being here actually on point so that you can be focusing on the right things so that you can take this time, this hour and a half or this hour each week, and make it effective for you. So attendance to these events is really important. Attendance to the monthly preps are also going to be very important. We only have, I think it's 8 of them total from now till next summer. It doesn't seem like, it seems like several, right? But for those of you that have run an office, those are pretty important. It makes it hard to get caught up, So the 8 preps that the big ones that are going to happen this fall. The first one's going to be September 7th, which is Monday. It's a Labor Day, so there shouldn't be any school anywhere. I don't think any of you guys have school on Labor Day, right? I don't think so. Cool. So that way, for those of you that are football fans, you don't miss the first opening weekend of football either. So Saturday you'll be able to watch all the games if that matters to you. But September 7th is going to be the first one. We'll get you the exact dates and locations via email, but the prep will be held right back here. And first year prep will be from 1 to 7. Next level prep will be from 9 to 12. Okay, so for those of you that are next level and really want to get all the goods, it'll be 9 to 7. So it'll be a full day. Okay. For the second prep is going to be September 19th. That will be a Saturday. Okay, and that will also be same deal, 9 to 12. And then 12 to 7, or 1 to 7. So first year prep, Keyshawn, John, you're next level, right? But for those of you that are going through management training for the first time, or for those of you that are watching for the first time, management training will be from 1 to 7 that day. Next level, 9 to 12 beforehand. The next one will be October, believe it's October 17th, but let me just double check it there. But that will be, yeah, October 17th. Okay, so October 17th is also Saturday. That one may end up being shifted to the 18th. We'll get you more information on that. But if you want to kind of put in the 18th for now, just assume it's going to be on the 18th. More than likely, we'll be running that one jointly with the Coastal Division, having a division meeting for that push. Okay, so there'll be a 2-week competition leading up to that. We'll give away some trophies. And then also the night before, the 17th night, we'll be doing a Halloween party at the Casa de Ketchum. Okay, so at my house, a little Halloween party, and we'll have some fun with that. And we had one two years ago, and it was pretty epic. I think we had like 50 or 60 people at it, and it was a lot of fun. So yeah, we'll have a good time there. So that'll be there. The next key date that you want to put in your planner is going to be November 7th through the 10th, and that will be the Olean trip. Okay? So that will be the trip to Olean. And then the last key date is going to be in December, and that will be the 18th and 19th. We will have our December prep and January sales contest kickoff meeting. Okay, so I don't know exactly where that payoff is going to be this year. If I had to guess, it will be somewhere warm, somewhere tropical, somewhere fun. Right? Of course, we can have fun anywhere we go, but it will be somewhere warm and tropical if the last 5 years are any indication of that. So that'll be the launch to that meeting and launch to that event. So like I said, guys, we only have a couple of these each campaign. So attendance to those events is super critical. The next big thing that we're going to be evaluating on is personal sales. CPO does talk, right? The more that you sell, the more that your statement that you're making is. Okay, and not only does CPO matter for what you've sold in your career, but also what you've done lately. For example, if like let's say Jen has sold 100 grams, let's just say, right? Let's say Jen sold 100 grams. She hasn't sold anything in the last 8 months. That doesn't speak nearly as loud as if, for example, a D has sold 20 grams, but all 20 of it has happened in the last 3 months. So it's not only about what you've sold in your career, but also what you've done lately that does matter. So we'll look at campaign sales. We'll also look at career sales. And the campaign officially begins for the fall campaign in September. But as far as we're concerned, locally, it's starting tomorrow, right? The school's starting back up. And so we're looking at what people are doing from now moving forward as part of the fall campaign. And one of the expectations that we do have for local candidates is that they're doing at least 5 demos a week and selling at least $500 a week. Now, I know some of you guys are like, man, that's a joke. I'm looking to do a lot more than that. And that's totally awesome. But those are just one of the bare kind of minimums that we're looking for everybody to get accomplished. Okay? And I know it looks like a lot of you guys have got bigger goals than that already. So I know Doug sold 1,000 last week, goal of 3,000 this week. Keyshawn looking at 2,500 this week. A D over 1,200. I know Jen and Jordan, Jesse, you guys didn't put your goals up yet, but we'll get those at some point. But we are looking for some numbers, right? We're looking for some production, knowing that the schedule is not as crazy in the fall and spring as it is during the summer. There should be more time and more opportunity to be able to sell, and there should be more opportunity for you guys to be able to take advantage of. For those of you that have branched, you're at flat 50 all the way through September. So take advantage of flat 50. Okay. It makes a big difference, and trust me, once you're done with flat 50, you'll wish you still had it. Right? It's that first week that you sell a homemaker set, instead of making $500, you make only $300 for that initial week. You'll be like, man, I remember the days, right? So you'll want to make sure that you stepped up and take advantage of flat 50. So the last thing that we're looking at is going to be startup. And guys, startup is something that we're going to continue to look at, and we'll continue to promote and talk about. We'll have the up-to-date totals after this week from what happened during the whole push, so we'll be able to kind of evaluate there. I know some of you guys are withholding a percentage of your sales, which is huge. If you're on office staff, automatically that's getting withheld as well. But We are looking to build your startup for a couple of reasons. One is it does help with your financial responsibility, but also it helps you for those that are opening up an office. It helps you to be able to be in the right place, to have some skin in the game. And the more money that you have saved towards running your own office, the less stressed you'll be when you open up your own office. And I'll tell you, I've never had a management candidate come to me and say, man, I wish I had less money in startup. Talk to people that have run their own office. It always helps. And I will say that for those that have $5,000 or more, they feel real comfortable through the process of the summer. Okay. For those that don't have $5,000, it's tight, right? I mean, and I will say that for those that get to 10, they feel zero, like they don't even use it all ever, unless they're really, really bad with their money, and then we've had some that are pretty bad with their money, but even people that had $10,000, like they didn't even feel it, But what I will say is getting that number of 5 or more, get that number as soon as possible. It does help people to be real comfortable and confident, going out. Having, you need to have at least 2,500 or $3,000, depending on the market. But we'd like somebody to get to 5 or more, and certainly people that get to 10. Like I said, really, the more that you have in there, the bigger the statement it makes, the bigger the territory that somebody can command. So that is something that you want to keep, stressing and keep focusing on. Live cheap, live frugally. Okay, it is important. So live as cheap as humanly possible. Think of ways that you can save money on everything. Okay, so not just saving money in, on normal expenses, or like not going out and buying new clothes, not going out and buying new electronics, but how can you find ways to be cheaper on the things that you have to do? Can you be cheaper with your books than other people? Right? Can you find other people that have taken the class and borrow them from them? Right? Or can you find them online for cheaper? Right? Can you find people that maybe already have taken the class and didn't sell their books and just literally borrow them from them? You're just saying, let me borrow them for the next couple months. Does your school library allow you to check one out for a month at a time? Right? It may not. Every school is different, but look for new and creative ways to take advantage of being cheap and being frugal. As a college student, there's a lot of built-in programs that are out there that can allow you to be cheap, so take advantage of them. Find creative ways if you're dating to take dates out on a cheap date. Find a way to take pride in how little you can spend, but how much fun you can have. That's something that I think is really critical. For those of you that are living somewhere where you got a kitchen, cook your own food, prepare your own food. That can save you a tremendous amount of money. I was just looking at even myself today. I prepared my lunches and dinners for the whole week. I spent $9.50 on chicken breasts. I got 6 monster chicken breasts, right, that I baked up, and they taste better than the shit you get anywhere else, right? Tastes a lot better than fast food chicken. Tastes a lot better than chicken that you're going to find at even grilled chicken that you find at a nice restaurant. If you make it the right way, and if you need help with it, I can help you. It tastes just as good, if not better, than the stuff you buy and spend $17 a plate at a gourmet restaurant. But be cheap with that. So I bought chicken. It cost me $9. I got pork tenderloin that cost me, I think, $4.50 for 6 of them. And between that and steamed sweet potatoes and some green beans and broccoli, I was able to make enough for lunch and dinner for the whole week. And I think the total bill was like $25 between everything that I bought for those meals. And then I also bought some protein bars in case I needed for snacks, and I bought egg whites and stuff to make breakfast. So I think the total outlay, including the protein bar, you take away all the laundry stuff I had to buy and paper towels and all that stuff, I think I ended up spending $35 on food, and it'll feed me for the whole week. And here's the thing, guys. I mean, that's also, not only is it going to feed me, and save me money, but it's healthy too. It's stuff that I'm not going to feel the urge to splurge on something gross just because I'm starving at that moment. Not, and by having it all prepared in advance, it's going to, cause me to have a lot more energy too. So being smart with spending money, being smart with your startup will allow that thing to grow. So that's what we evaluate. The last characteristics that we evaluate on is just my own intangible kind of, I call it the it factor. It's basically a scale 1 to 5 of what kind of leader are you? And that's something that, there's, the best way I can say how to influence that is give back to others, right? Influence and help other people. Go above and beyond outside of what's asked for you, just to take care of those around you. If I were to ask somebody in the office who's, besides your immediate manager, who's influenced you the most, would they answer you? And the more people that would answer you, the higher your it factor is going to be, right? If somebody outside the division, if outside of this office, if I were to go to, for example, James Chow's office or Cole Forrester's, or I would go to, Bobby Rednauer or Rel Williams, and I would say, hey, tell me, do you know who Doug Blanchard is? Would they be able to say, oh yeah, I know who Doug is, right? Man, he's awesome, right? That's kind of part of the thing that can help your score for that. And I know that right now it's hard to do that because you're just, in many cases, just getting started, or you're just now getting into leadership training, but it will happen, right? If people were to say, hey, do you know who Jen Hart is? A lot of people know who Jen Hart is within our division, within the Coastal Division. If I were to say, do you know who Jordan White is? A lot of people would say, oh yeah, I remember Jordan speaking, right? And they would be able to say, yes, I definitely know who that is. So your influence that you have beyond just your own office makes a big deal when it comes to evaluating your leadership score. So, so that's what we're going to be evaluating on. Those are the key dates. What I want to dig into next, though, is talking about the pre-interview. Okay, so if you've got the pre-interview, I want to take it out. We're going to work on this for a little bit. Then after we work on this, you guys at home and in other offices, you guys will be drilling for skill. Your managers may have some other things they want to talk about. We'll drill for skill here in the pilot office, and then you guys will be good to go. So, so if you take out the pre-interview, and if you have it, what I want to do is just kind of review some of the key parts to the pre-interview. And when you're running an interview, understand that there's two reasons why people show to training, and there's also two reasons why people don't show to training. Okay, bless you. So the two reasons why people show, and this is a big thing. Okay, the two reasons why people show to training is, number one, they understand the job and they think they could do well at it. Okay, so if you start with that basic premise, if somebody can leave your interview feeling like, okay, I know how to do the job and I could be good at it, okay, that they're likely to show. The second reason why somebody shows is because they like the recruiter and either would want to be like them or would want to work for them. So what that means is that they respect you, but also want to be like you, okay? Because some people respect people, but they don't like them. Okay? And guys, that can hurt show. If they respect you because you're the leader, right, or you're the owner of the office, but they don't really like you, or they don't feel, now here's the thing, let's not confuse that like is secondary to respect in this case. And what I mean is that nobody wants to work for their buddy. Okay? If you become friends in the process, that's great, but you're always going to have to be their manager first. Like for example, even with Brian and I, no matter how much I like Brian, no matter how good of friends we become, Jesse, Jordan, doesn't matter. I've got a duty and an obligation to be their manager first before their friend. Right? Doesn't mean that we don't have a good time. Doesn't mean that we don't talk about personal stuff. Doesn't mean that we haven't become friends, but I always have to help them as a manager and as a leader before that. Because if I didn't, then I'm failing them as a manager or as a leader. And so keep in mind when you're running an interview, your job is not to get them to be your buddy. It's not for them to be friends with you. It's not for them to feel like you're on the same level. It's to be their leader, and the feeling that they should have is one of, you know what, they seem like they're pretty cool, but I wouldn't want to piss them off. That's kind of the vibe they should be. So it's a professional version of yourself. Okay, and everybody's going to have a different version of themselves. For example, Jen, I don't see Jen being super bitchy.
I can't be bitchy.
It wouldn't work for her. Okay, Jordan can pull it off, right? But even still though, like that's not, her go-to. She can get there in a hurry if she needs to, but at the same time, that's not her initial fallback, right? A D, same thing, right? You'll figure out your own personality as you go, but you always want to be a level above. Okay, so create that mystique, meaning it's like, yeah, they shouldn't feel comfortable asking you how old you are. Now, some people will, just because they don't have any common sense or tact, right? They shouldn't feel comfortable asking you really anything for that matter, you know, because they should want to impress you. Okay? And hopefully there's some commonalities that you're able to point out. They're like, oh man, maybe they're more like me than I think. But it should be one of those things where it's like, okay, he's my boy, right? She's my girl. Like I can ask her anything. Like it shouldn't be on that level, not right away. You know, so so you want to know as much about them, giving away as little about yourself as possible, because you have to be their leader first. Okay, so those are 2 reasons why people show. They like the job, they understand it, they know how to do it. And the second reason is that they feel they either want to be like the manager that recruits them, or they really truly respect them and like to work for them. Okay? All right, the 2 reasons why people don't show. It boils down into 2 simple reasons. First one is lack of control. Okay, if you don't have control, people aren't likely to show. The second reason why somebody doesn't show is somebody is not on the interview. Okay? So if somebody is off script, meaning they're doing their own thing, right? And I'm not saying that somebody doesn't have like their own personality. I'm not saying that at all. What I am saying is if somebody is changing the script or somebody has completely edited what they say in a group, I always worry about the consistency of their show. You know, because here's the deal. If they change their interview slightly here and there, and they say something differently in each interview, their results could be different in each interview. And so what ends up happening is the results will kind of go like this. They'll have a good show one week, a bad show the next week. It's kind of this roller coaster. The same thing happens with demos, by the way. You know, if somebody, you know, quote unquote, changes the approach with each single customer, you have to be damn good at what you do so that doesn't impact what happens at the end of the demo. I'm not saying you don't customize the rapport building part. I'm not saying you don't change, the little jokes that you tell here and there. But what I am saying is the bulk of the interview or the demo needs to be the same. The close needs to be the same if you're going to have consistency with your average order, just with your closing percentage. With us in the interview, the group interview needs to be the same if you're going to have consistency of show. So if you're kind of winging certain parts or changing it up, you never know what your show is going to be like each week. So I'd rather have somebody consistently getting 45 or 50% than somebody getting 65 or 70% one week, 30% the next week. Even though the numbers may average out to be the same number, I want somebody who's consistent, because if somebody's consistent, then I can help them with little parts that may be able to help them take it higher. Okay? If somebody's all over the place, and each week it's different, and they may say one thing one time that connects with one particular group of representatives and they all show, but then that same phrase or maybe another phrase rubs the next group the wrong way and none of them show. So it needs to be consistent, and those are the biggest things. Now with the pre-interview, the same thing applies, right? You got to establish control and you got to be on the approach. So how do you establish control? Well, one of the ways that you establish control is you actually bring them back in for the interview. Okay. And what I mean by that is it's easy, to walk into an interview and just walk into the front of the room and just stand up and say that person's name. Right. So like, let's say, for example, that you guys are all in my interview. And let's say I've only met with Doug because Doug was the first one to show up. I haven't met with anybody else. Everybody else showed up at the same time. Well, if I just walk in the room and I've got the sign-in sheet and I'm like, Brian, and I kind of look around and I see Brian raise his hand and I'm calling it like it's a doctor's office, well, I've lost control at that point, right? Think about it. When you're at the doctor's office and they say your name, it's kind of it's kind of weird, isn't it? Because then it's like, oh, that's me. And so you kind of get up and it's kind of like a weird feeling. You don't feel quite right until you get past that group room, right? That waiting room. At least a lot of people feel that way. I'm just relieved that they call my name so I can finally get in there and get to the doctor. But a lot of people, it's kind of awkward, right? Because they walk up, they just say a name, they kind of look around, and you're like, that's me. You look around to see if anybody else has the same name, right? You're like, You know, if it's a D, I guess you don't really get much of that, but you still kind of like look around. You're like, all right, that's me, and you just feel, and then you're like, and everybody's staring at you as you're walking in, right? Because they're like, damn, that person's next, right? You know, and you're kind of looking, and it feels awkward. But if instead the nurse had already introduced himself to you, walked up, and said, hey, Brian, you know, Dr. Horn will be with you right now, right? When you walk in, you feel a lot more comfortable because you're escorting them through the whole process. So when you're recruiting, it's important that you make sure that you introduce yourself one-on-one to people. Now, here's the thing. If you walk into a room and you see that there's already a whole group of people there that you haven't met, before you bring the next person back, like let's say that I know the next person I'm going to bring back is Jen. Well, what I'm going to do is I'm going to know that I'm going to remember Jen's name. And then as I walk around, I'm going to introduce myself to everybody. You know, and let's say the first person I happen to introduce myself is Jen, right? So I'm gonna walk up and I'm gonna say, you know, hey there, I'm Trey Ketchum, I'm the owner. What's your name? Jen. Jen Hart. Okay, I'm actually meeting with you in just a second, okay? And then I'll walk around and introduce myself to everybody else first. So that way, she already knows that I'm the one meeting with her. And then the next time I come back, let's say Keyshawn's the next person I'm meeting with. When I go up, I can walk up to Keyshawn and I'll remember the name. I'll say, Keyshawn. Right? And he already knows what's going on. I've established control in the room because it's always kind of awkward to introduce yourself to somebody a little bit. Even if you're really confident and comfortable introducing yourself, just taking that little assertiveness to go up and introduce yourself shows control. Does that make sense? And also, especially if they're sitting and you're standing, it also kind of helps out a little bit with the control thing. So make sure you introduce yourself to everybody so the first time you pull them back isn't the first time you meet them, unless it's like no other option, right? You know, so the next time I go back in, I've already met with everybody. Okay? If people are sitting right next to each other, you don't have to say your name to each individual person, but every couple people, it's always important to do that. Okay? And I like saying my name first and then saying you are, because then again, you're controlling the flow of the conversation. Okay. So, so that's something that happens before you even bring them back. Then when you bring them back, guys, it's really important that you say, okay, you know, so let's say it's Doug, right? Or let's say, we'll just use the example of Jen. So I'll say, Jen, actually, why don't you come on back with me? You have your application. And what I'll do is I'll bring them back. And as I bring her back, I'll actually kind of walk with her, okay, so that she's with me, okay? And then I'll open the door and tell her to grab a seat, or him to grab a seat. I've seen scenarios where assistant managers will go up, or owners for that matter, in some interviews I've watched, right? You know, say, Doug, actually, I'll be with me, come on. And then they just walk away from it. And so now Doug's kind of like walking, like feeling all weird because he's trying to trail you, okay? You know, so now you don't just say, hey, go ahead and grab a seat back in my office, I'll be right with you. That's equally as weird. So you bring them back, you kind of walk them. It's okay if you're a little bit ahead, but you don't want it to be like you're gone and they're having to play catch up. You know, plus you also want to make sure that you got their attention, they're actually coming with you. I've done that before. I've been in a rush and I'm like, okay, Doug, I'm actually gonna meet you next, come on back. Right, and I'll walk and I'll get to my office. I'm like, where the hell did he go? Right? And I'll walk back in and Doug's still sitting there. He didn't know what I said. You're like, come on. Right? And then it feels really weird. Okay, so actually tell them with you, open the door, have them grab a seat. And then as you have them grab a seat, I like to say, did you have any trouble finding us today? Right? So you're already starting the pre-interview before you even sit down. Question on that?
From the time where you bring them in to you get to the office, are you like kind of like reviewing the application so you know what to ask them? And you just kind of like look down at it?
Yeah, if you've got a long walk, what I'll do is I'll have them give me their application as we start walking, and I'll usually mention wherever they're from. You know, if I see something like, hey, okay, so you went to high school, or so you live in Stockbridge. How long have you lived in Stockbridge, right? Like I'll start kind of conversation a little bit, just so that it doesn't feel so unnatural and awkward. Okay? In some cases, it's an office where there's a short distance. You don't really have to worry about it. But like even in our office, right, you got a little bit of a walk to get to the pre-post room. So saying something about where they're from is always kind of a good idea, right? Or what school they go to, or what high school they went to. Just something where you're connecting before you even sit down. Okay. And so then as you have them grab a seat, you go around, you ask if they had any trouble finding us, and then you just go right into it, right? So you pull out their application, okay? You say, well, as you know, my name is Trey Ketchum. What I'm doing is getting a feel for people who are applying today. As you can tell, we have a lot of people applying. And now here's the thing. If it's just them, you can't say, as you can tell, we have had a lot of people applying, right? So in that case, you would just say, and just so you know, we've had a lot of people apply with us this week. Because in every case, we're going to have a lot of people apply. Because here's the thing. Whether it's one person that's applying and them or 25, that still feels like competition to somebody that's looking for a job. Okay, so even if there's just one other person applying, it still feels like a lot. It's you and them, right? You know, so it's important that you kind of throw that in there. Okay, it also gives a little bit of control to let them know that, hey, we're not just giving out jobs here. Okay, and what I'll do is I'll ask you a few questions, give you some information about the company, and then we'll see what we can do. Okay, and it looks like you've lived here, and what you're doing is, as you're doing this, you're filling it out on their application. So it looks like you lived here for, and I just circle however many years. Okay, and are you looking for full or part-time work? And then you write at the top FT or PT. Okay. And the reason why you do that is, one, you're trying to get a feel for what they're looking for, but also it is something that you could bring up in the post if need be to kind of let them know that you're going to try to help them out with it. Okay. And would you be willing to work a flexible schedule, you know, an occasional night, a weekend? The reason that you ask that question there is you're looking to see how fluid somebody is and how, you know, whether they're willing to, you know, work a type of job like we have, which is a flexible schedule. And if somebody immediately comes back with, no, I'm really looking for something 9 to 5, well, if you're going to give them a job, you need to show them, or at least explain to them, hey, I know you said you were looking for something pretty standard 9 to 5. So in your case, most of your appointments you wanted to complete between the hours of 9 to 5. Okay. So you're looking for a flexible schedule, no occasional night or weekend. Okay. And if accepted, ones as soon as you can get started. And 9 times out of 10, they say as soon as possible. And you just write ASAP on the top of the page. If for whatever reason they don't say as soon as possible, you need to make sure that you handle any training conflicts that may arise, right? You know, for example, if somebody says, well, yeah, I need another 2 weeks, right? Or maybe they're like, hey, mid-September, you know, sometimes you'll hear stuff like that, right? And so all you gotta do is say, okay, well, the reason I ask is if accepted, we actually do have a training seminar that's going to be this Thursday. If you were accepted, is that something you could work out one time only since it's for training? And almost always they'll say yes. Occasionally they'll say, well, no, because I'm leaving the country tomorrow and I'm going to be gone. You say, okay, well, hey, if accepted, we'd be able to work something out. You know, so you're not just saying, okay, we'll work it out. You know, you say if accepted. Does that make sense? That just gives you a little bit more control. But also, it handles any like the kind of the lame reasons why somebody wouldn't come to this week's training. Lame reasons would be things like, well, I've got another job, right? Because in a lot of cases, they're the job, they're wanting to quit. If they've told their employer doesn't really care if they take off time. You know, a lot of times somebody says, hey, I'm leaving. They're like, all right, fine. If you're going to leave now. Another case, it may be that, oh, they've got, you know, a lot of homework. Well, I mean, we could get that worked out. You know, they could work their homework around it. If they've got classes, right? Sometimes they'll have that on their schedule, which you will see in the fall and spring. You say, hey, if accepted, we have a training that's Thursday, Friday, and Saturday from this time, this time, and this time. I see you've got a class at this time right here. If it was one time only for training, is that something you think you worked out to be here, or so that you wouldn't have to miss training? And most of them will say, yep, I can get that done. In some cases, they're like, no, that professor's terrible. You say, okay, cool. I'll tell you what, if accepted, we'd work something out. Okay? And so if anything, it's kind of a push away. It's like, crap, man, I really need to impress them in an interview so they're going to work with me. Okay? Yeah, because you don't want to wait till the end and then tell them training and be like, oh, well, I've got class at this time. And now all of a sudden you're trying to jump through all these hoops just to get them trained. You want there to be a little bit of give on both sides if somebody's got a crazy schedule. Okay? Okay. So that's what you're looking to get done right there in the pre. So you're establishing control. you're making sure the training times work out all right, and kind of giving them a brief description of what the job is, which is what happens next. Okay. Well, Jen, as you know, the name of the company is Vector Marketing, and we've been in business since 1981. We work with Cutco, which is a high-quality line of culinary and outdoor products. We also work on an appointment-style basis. So what that means, there's no canvassing and no cold calling with the positions. All of our appointments are with customers that have been personally recommended. And so if you're going to accept them, you just move forward and say, what I'm doing today is getting a feel for who's applying, like I said before. Based on what I've seen so far, I'd like to have you stay for a second interview. What I'll do is take 30, 45 minutes to go over all the details of the positions with you. And, and I'm going to give you an idea, also give you an idea of what I look for in a representative. At the end, I'll meet with you, and I'll do one of two things. I'll either welcome you to the team, or I'll let you know we're going in a different direction and give you tips to help you in your job search. Do you have plenty of time to stay for the second interview? Use the Vector nod there. Okay? Great. Well, go ahead and grab a seat in the other room and grab a magazine from the front. I'll have a couple other people to meet with, and then we'll get started. It was nice meeting you. Yeah.
I don't know at SC3 they sort of were using words like great and things like that. Would you still use it right there?
Yeah, I think that one's fine. Yeah, yeah. I mean, it's just, I mean, yeah. You could say sure. You say okay, but I think it's, I think it is one of those things where you know, you're not like doing it like real fired up, but it is, you know, you're saying great. I think the main thing that probably Jordan was meaning and what we mentioned is really don't be overly impressed. Don't be like, oh, that's awesome, right?
Oh, you have a bachelor's in marketing? Awesome.
Yeah. You don't want to be overly impressed by anything, but but yeah, you could. There's ways you could say great without it seeming like you're super fired up about it, right? All right, great. So go ahead and grab a seat in the other room. Grab a magazine from the front. I have a couple of people to meet with, and then we'll get started. It was nice meeting you. Okay. And then right there, you do want to shake their hand too. It doesn't say it in there, but shake their hand. Okay? Now, if you're going to boot them, right? If they're not qualified, meaning they offend one of your senses, or you just really feel like there's going to be a lot of hindrances to them being able to do the job. Okay? If you feel like they may not be trustworthy, that would be another reason why you wouldn't want to accept them. Okay? And so what you do is say, what I'm doing today is getting a feel for who's applying, like I said before. What I'm going to do is take all the applications we receive. I'll review those tonight, make callbacks to all the top applicants tomorrow. I might need to give you a call back for a second interview. Which of these numbers is the best to call you? Okay, great. And when is the best time to call? All right, great. And like I said, I'll review those tonight. If you don't hear back from us tomorrow, I do wish you the best of luck, but I'll see what I can do. Also take this with you, and a Skills for Life brochure. Just gives you a full detailed description of the positions we have available. It also has our website on the back. So take this with you. Look over it tonight. And if we have anything available, I'll give you a call tomorrow. Thanks for your time. It was nice meeting with you. Take care. So, so that is the basic gist of the pre-interview itself. Yeah.
So do you like walk them up? So you're saying that as you're walking, right?
Yeah. Either way, you walk them back towards the interview room. If you're walking somebody, if you're excusing somebody, you walk them to where they're past the interview room. So that way, the only way they have to go is out. If they're keeping them for the interview, obviously you walk them back into the group and you grab the next person, next applicant. Okay. Any questions on this? Jesse, any questions? Nada? Okay, cool. So here's what we're gonna do. We're gonna role play this section for a little bit. For those of you drawing at home, make sure that you partner up, and we'll coordinate partners for next week. For those in other offices, your district manager will partner you up. And assignments for this week, by the way, assignments is going to be to get this thing down so that next week you could do it live. Okay, so next Monday, normal prep time 7:30 to 9, you're going to want to be able to do this live. And the goal is, if you're part of the pilot or if you're part of this division, is to get this thing memorized by the first prep, which is September 7th. Okay, so you want to have this thing so it's completely memorized, so you can get a 5 on that score. Okay, so that's the assignment. Next assignment, of course, is also making sure that you're selling, getting your assignments, and getting some observations. So I'd like everybody to watch at least 3 pre-interviews this week, or run 3 pre-interviews based on what place you're at. Right, if you're at next level, once you're running them. If you're first year, observing. some pre-interviews. And you could do that either before a team meeting, after a meeting, some other function. We'll coordinate that time at the end. So, all right, guys, that's all I've got. You guys have an awesome night. See ya.